Hello, welcome to Ramuism. Series of conversations with filmmaker Gopal Varma, who is known for his fiercely independent views on various issues about society and the country and the world. Today he speaks specifically in context of rape, especially because of the background of the BBC documentary that has shaken up the entire world. Mr. RGV, thank you for joining us. For our convenience, we'd like to call you RGV for today. I hope it's okay.
Okay.
Have you watched the documentary, Nirbhaya?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. See, the two issues here. One is what you're talking about, the aspect of rape, and of course, Nirbhaya. I mean, that's not the first time it happened. That's not the last time it happened. But of course, there was huge upheaval in the entire country, like we witnessed in 2012. And now, currently, I think the point is about the ban on the documentary. When I saw that, I felt that was like a true insight into what I mean. We have a knee-jerk reaction, and we become emotional, and we want to kill the rapists, we want to burn them, we want to cut them into pieces. But I always felt the issue of what kind of people are capable of doing that. I mean, to understand that, I think where the actual cure for something like that could be. So more than to hear that a brutal rape like that happened, for me to see that guy, one of the rapists, Mukesh or whatever his name is, him talking about in a certain way, and a lawyer who's supposed to be educated and is practicing, and him having a mindset which almost looked like similar in the context to me. Probably the rapist has done it and this guy has not done it, but I fundamentally am not seeing much of a difference between the two people.
In the mindset. So
that's what which shocked me and moved me more than anything else. And for whatever reasons the government chose to ban, I wouldn't be knowing the specific reasons, but I find it appalling, because it's like there's a saying which says, if the cat is drinking milk with his eyes closed, and it just imagines that no one else is watching because eyes are closed. It seems like that to me. I think in a democratic country or wherever there's a free world, I think everyone should know everything. So some people cannot take a decision of the others are not mature enough to see, or for whatever reasons it is.
So since you delve deep into things, what do you think is the government's reason for banning this?
I mean, whatever the official I've been hearing from sources, in the fact that it would create an outrage, it is like you're, bringing out something which is not something one wants to live through it once again, or probably it shows India in bad light in the eyes of the world. I mean, there are various reasons like this I've been hearing, that's officially given. For whatever the real fears are, I wouldn't like to speculate. But the irony of it is, in today's age, you can't really stop information. No one can do it. If you ban one documentary, the whole content can be taken and made another document out of it. What is the whole documentary? The documentary primary thing for me was nothing but to get the viewpoints of these so-called rapists and lawyers, which is actually the crux of it. The fact that they think like that is the actual information which is relevant to the documentary. You see, a documentary is not a feature film,
right,
for you to go through an emotional process. It is an information which is coming, and that information has already come through newspapers and through the internet, and even other documentaries made based on the information that this documentary provided for whatever time period, right. So I think and that's what the whole issue is about.
You always said in context of crimes that these people should have a proper psychiatric evaluation.
No, I didn't say that. What I said is, when it happened, if you remember, I met so many people, women, men, they all extremely angry and hurt, and they were in a rage of not wanting to do something to these kind of people who done such a heinous act. But I don't know if that is actually serves any purpose, because, and see, to increase it the sentence from 7 years to 14 years, or even the death sentence, because to start with, I do not believe that any person committing a rape or any crime for that matter will ever think of what is a quantum of punishment for that. I mean, I don't expect a guy to think that if it's only 4 years I will do a rape, but if it's 14 years I don't want to. I don't think anybody thinks like that, because no one wants to be caught in a crime, even if the imprisonment is only for 4 months, forget about 14 years. They either do it because they do not think they will get caught.
Right.
One. Second is they can't control the urge, or they will have some kind of a thing in their mind that the victim might not probably report it for, because she also does not want a social stigma, of this woman has been raped, whatever they might think. But I think the last thing on their mind would be the quantum of punishment, and the proof is very much evident. Post Nirbhaya, if the graph of rape did not go down at all, and hardly in a year's time we witnessed the Shakti Mills rape,
right.
Which happened in broad daylight in the middle of Bombay city, not in some late in the night of a empty street like what happened in Nirbhaya case, or not in some village. It happened in Bombay city. So after all the hue and cry we made, if people in Bombay, the so called rapists, did not hear or did not even care about it, so I think obviously that is not going to have any effect.
So is it ineffectiveness of the law,
Yeah.
in terms of letting people know, that justice delayed is actually justice denied?
I would not say that. I mean, see, to start with, I think, I mean, as a country we react emotionally. I think we rarely think of anything with logic. I mean, let us accept it. My whole point is, I would like to see, okay, if you take the Connecticut massacre which happened in America, okay, a guy came and kills some 20 odd children of 5 years old. I mean, I doubt I have ever heard anything more horrific than that. You see the maturity, they look at a psychiatric aspect of what kind of a man can do it. There is no anger, it is almost like you are treating any kind of an extreme crime like he has a disease, like it is like a disease of society. A person who thinks like that or who can do something like that should be approached like a disease, and a disease when you are keeping it out in the open. Like for example, if there is a cancer, if you smoke, there is going to be, you might be affected with cancer, your lungs will get infected, they might look like this, you might go through this kind of a pain, is what is actually you are trying to open it up. You are not trying to be angry with the cigarette or the smoker, you are highlighting it like a disease, and that is what I think is needed in dealing with crimes like this. So for me, I would very much, as a citizen of the country, or even a woman for that matter, any woman, I think if what I mean very fleetingly shown in this documentary, India's Daughter,
Right.
I would like to see a full length interview of these rapists with maybe conducted by psychiatrists, what kind of a background they come from, what do they think of, what did they ever think of women when the first time they saw in their teens
But
or whatever.
this is such
It is that mindset which led to a horrific crime like this is what needs to be studied. It is not the incident alone. The incident of course is in the process of law. Someone commits a crime and it is a police job to investigate and bring him to the justice. But I think that much more larger than that is what is required is for everyone to understand where this mindset is coming from.
Do you think that this does not come across as an obvious need right now to evaluate him and figure out what is happening?
I think so.
Which the government has not done obviously.
That is what I am saying, but that is very indicative of how in India we approach things. I mean, it is not correct to blame the government alone, but that is a proper mindset. Even the government has the same Indians. Just because they appear in the government, that is not, they would change. And in fact, many people in the government, we heard them saying things which are probably very derogatory to women, or like they should not be wearing provocative clothes and all that. That is again representative of the same mindset.
Now, when you refer to the Connecticut shootings, it is a freak incident. And similarly, when a terrorist episode happens in and around India, it is approached in a very different way. Do you think we are getting used to rape because every 20 minutes it is happening, which means if the same guy is not repeating his offence, there is one new person raping somebody every 20 minutes in our country, according to the documentary. So what do you have to say on that?
See, I think there is two things. One is it is such a large country and the kind of huge population we have, and I think many places probably do not even have access to proper any kind of resources in terms of to prevent like that, and we are highly understaffed of the security agencies like police and all that. So I am not surprised about the number, I am not even surprised at the frequency, because if the number is more, and obviously the timing it has a corresponding relationship to that, Now the second point is, it is an urge, it is a physical urge, a sexual urge. Then it is a question of a man getting attracted sexually to a woman is by nature there. Then what he does about it is what we are discussing. some guy can probably ask her, somebody probably can be in love with her or marry her or whatever to satisfy the urge as far as the physical aspect is concerned, and someone can force her. Someone can, and that again depends upon this guy's I mean perversity quotient, to what kind of a state of mind he is in, or the circumstances surrounding that. I'll give you an example. You know, I in my college, me and some 5-6 of our guys, we used to, there was this laborer, a construction laborer, because some construction was going on in the college compound at the time, and there was this one woman laborer who we all had a huge thing for, you know, because we are all teens and our hormones obviously at the peak at that age and that period, and we used to fantasize, we used to talk about her, we used to wait for her and all that. And one day me and some 5-6 of us were sitting in the hostel, and we were talking about her, and one of the guys said, because there was a village where the college premises were there, she comes from that, and she comes across some field, a paddy field or something, crossing it to come to the work. So this guy said she comes early in the morning from there or goes again back after the work. What if we wait for her in the fields? Okay. This is an idea proposed by a guy in the group.
So with the actual intention of
obviously to kidnap her, I mean, which obviously amounts to, like, see, if she doesn't know us, and why would he propose an idea, what if we take her out, means with the intention of doing this, right. There was a 10-second silence in the room, and suddenly one of the guys shouted at him, what the hell is wrong with you, and he was upset and angry, and that broke the moment. What disturbed me is the 10-second silence. Now imagine in the same group, if that particular guy vehemently reacted like that, if he is a stronger personality, as strong a personality as him, could have swayed the group, possibly. I am just giving an example, you know,
one way or the other.
One way or the other. So now in the Nirbhaya case, or whichever case for that matter, where a so called gang rape happens, there will always be one leader whose personality will dominate the rest of the people. Of course, the very reason they are in that group also could be because they are previously psyched. I mean, groups operate like that, just generally, right. Now the point is, which means what I am trying to say, any time a man has a sexual urge, as attraction towards a woman, wanting to possess her, I think is by nature. Then one, the degree differs, to what extent he wants, how badly he wants, then him not at all caring for the other person as a human being, her feelings, or who all will get affected with that kind of an act. That the example I can give is, if you see National Geographic, and if you see a leopard or a panther or a tiger, and it looks at the prey, and the eyes, if you see it, they have that fixed gaze, it is just like a focus, there is no empathy, there is no any kind of an emotion register except for the focus. I think such people look at women like prey. I do not think they look upon them as human beings, they tend to objectify. Like I remember in college, and even in my teens, when I saw a group of girls walking, and many of the people I hang out with, they will say things like they refer to them as objects, you know, because unless you dehumanize the person, I do not think you can behave like that. So they will have to have a conviction, like the moment this guy Mukesh or whoever, all these rapists, they are saying, why is she out in the night, why is she with another guy, which means somewhere you want to blame the victim, it is she brought it upon herself, because nobody can do something like that unless he develops a conviction in his own mind that he is not doing something wrong.
This conviction seems to have been developed now after thinking about it for so long, for years together. Do you think it was so premeditated that they actually saw a girl with another guy and it was late at night, and hence they wanted to teach her a lesson?
I am very sure about it. It is like a group of boys going out on a hunt. I do not think there is any difference. I do not see, the degree differs. I know a lot of times in college, I know a lot of groups who used to just hang out, they want to just select a girl and try to tease her, going behind her or making all kinds of comments and all that, you know, and that is premeditated, that is thought about, that is their way of having a fun time, you know, and I think this is just an extreme case of that. So the mindset starts from there. I do not think there is a difference between a eve teaser and a rapist, except for that the degree of the implementation.
Do you think that things could have been different or would have been different had she been with her family, with her father and mother, walking on the same street at night? Then would they have not judged her? And
I absolutely don't think so, because in the same place, I mean in the college I would have seen a girl wearing a sari and just holding her books and walking with her head bent, and I heard comments saying she's posing like some fucking patirata, you know, which means whatever she is, it is his intention is to think of her like that. So, if in the Nirbhaya case, if she was not with some friend of hers, she is alone, or she is dressed in different, or even if it happens in daylight, probably she would not have gotten in because she would not have needed, or maybe an isolated place in daylight. I think it is about a woman being in a helpless state. I think that is the only thing they are looking for, you know. And once that happens, in this kind of a case, they will come up with another explanation. So, because this is particular to this incident, they are giving this explanation.
But isn't this all just to plead innocent, or to
yeah, it's a defense. I mean, eventually, like, you know, if you've been proved by the investigative agencies that you were a part of that group, and there's nothing you can do to escape that part of it, the only thing you can fight your case is on an intention, and by trying to bring the character of the girl down. I didn't rape a nice girl. I raped a girl who was out there in the night. I raped a girl who was roaming around with some boy. So, that gives him in his head some kind of a psychological consolation, or at least he is trying to use that to gain a few brownie points.
What's even more shocking, you're saying that people don't think they're going to be caught, but recently we've seen rape videos being circulated.
Yeah.
Rape videos being circulated, where rapists have actually smiled to the camera when, and it's probably one of the most horrible things anybody would want to watch.
Yes, you know, there are three elements to it. One is in the today's time, the cell phone technology, where everyone wants to record everything, and so the fact that they are doing something which they perceive to be fun time, what they are doing, and if they have a cell phone and a camera in it, they are going to record that incident. Okay. Now, why did that come out? Whether after the police catch them or something, when they confiscated, that is how it leaked out, or they shared with their friend, or some enemy of theirs because had access to it, did it for whatever the reasons could be, how it has come out in the first place. Because any guy who commits a crime, why would you put a record of it? That does not make sense, you know. So, which means they either stupidly or for whatever reasons did it.
It could also be that they don't fear the law.
I don't think that. I think they won't be found out by the law. I don't think it's about, why would everybody will fear the law, because law is a huge force. Why wouldn't they fear the law? They will think they can bypass it. They will be ignorant of it, or they will think it will never reach them, you know. Now, the point, one point is the aspect of how should a girl behave. I mean, like we have this in terms of like what you are talking about, Asaram Babu saying call her bhaiya or these kind of things. I happened to see one video some years back, you know, where this girl was being raped in the back seat of the car, and this guy was shooting with a cell phone from the front seat. Okay. Now, for me, because I am a cinema person, I always have certain image of how a rape happens, because over the years I would have seen it on cinema. The girl is shouting bachao or this or that, and whatever the typical images which we generally tend to do as filmmakers, you know. When this guy was committing the act, she was constantly crying about the pain. She was unable to bear the physical pain. Dard ho raha hai, that is what she is constantly saying. That shook me up, because I had never ever thought of the physical aspect of it. The aspect of it, her honor is being
it was always about morality.
Outraged, because there is also a physical aspect. I think that girl, she looked like 15, 16 to me, that girl, you know. In between she asked for water, and that guy stopped and gave her a bottle of water, and once she drank the water, he resumed it. Now, I was shocked on various counts on that. One is, it first time I understood that rape, unlike in cinema, which happens in 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes depending upon the situation, in real life there is an abduction. I do not know when they abducted her, I do not know for what period of time she was there with them, and I do not know after the initial trauma of the fear going, what they were talking and at what parts they recorded in this entire, after how much of time. There are so many elements to it which I am not aware of, but then the fact of the physical pain is a huge thing for me, which I never really taken into account, you know. And then because that is immediate, the thirst is immediate, you know. Now even in that aspect, the fact that guy has stopped so that he gave her time to drink water was a huge thing for me, because those elements make him look human for that point. Now a guy who is as human as me, that is what I would expect to do that, you know. Like when I remember in Godfather, Coppola said once, I can't relate to a man who can shoot a man. I do not know what that guy is. But if a man is making spaghetti and then that guy goes and shoots, I can relate, because the spaghetti is something I can relate to. I do not know a gun, you know. So the fact that someone is thirsty and him giving water on a human level, is he the same guy who is actually raping a minor girl when she is crying with pain, apart from the rape, which is anyway horrendous enough, you know. How do you connect that? It is almost like the physical aspect of it is urge is overpowering his human aspect. If it does not have a human aspect, why did he even care about his thirst? There are so many complicated aspects to that, you know. I think it is study of this which where the answer will be.
Yeah, it's perhaps because I think when a rape happens, more than the physical pain that happens, trauma that happens, it's more of a social, societal, moralistic kind of a taboo situation for the girl. Nobody, or rather it doesn't come out in the open, the discussion of how painful it would have been for her.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am saying, if we see, even we, for example, there is a law, there is a juvenile guy who has been let off because or given less punishment, because that is under the law. If you are below a certain age, you can't be given a sentence as huge as death. Now the reports are that he has done the maximum damage and he was the main guy who has actually caused the maximum pain.
Yes.
I mean, to take that at face value, now just technically is under, but that is still the law. I mean, you cannot have whatever 6 months or 6 days, that is not the point, maybe 1 day under, but that is technically the law. You have to follow it by the book is where, because you can't keep on interpreting and keep on changing as per the situation, and I mean that is again getting emotional about it. But the main point here, what I was trying to say is, if that person after he comes out, the fact that he is being protected by the juvenile law, okay, whatever the law is called, you know, to hear from him, I would like to, the entire country should hear from him what exactly he was thinking. Who influenced him to think like that? Is it naturally to him? Did he ever think of that? Did he ever did something like that before? Or did he have fantasies of doing that to women, to hurt them so grievously? I would like to listen to it from him, not from a police report, not from some kind of a thing. I want to listen to in his words, from his face. That is what actually the truth of this whole, why this Nirbhaya happened, Nirbhaya incident happened. You will only get to know both what it is, why it happened,
only
and what caused it, and can we get some material out of that talk to hopefully prevent it in the future.
For a almost well presented quote unquote documentary, there was such hue and cry in the country. So the possibility of this happening does not seem, even if there is an interview session happening, I doubt if in the interest of the social unrest it may bring around, the government will release actual documents or actual interview clips for people to listen in.
But I would like to know why. I mean, see, if at all I was wrong in suggesting that what should be done, I would at least like to know the reason why. Why shouldn't the country hear it from the man who committed it, why he did it, what was he thinking? I think that, for what reason should anyone stop it? What is it going to change? It is up to you to believe it or not believe it, but the point is to hear it from the man who has done it is the only truth, otherwise there is no such thing as truth.
But RGV, everybody knows that whether it is a girl with great character, immoral conduct, even if it is a prostitute walking down, nobody has the right to justify a rape.
Absolutely
Mukesh
right,
knows that, his lawyer knows that, the whole country knows that.
But that is the whole point. What is shocking about the documentary is that, this is obviously what you are saying is very obvious and we all know that, but the fact that his mindset is being reflected even by certain leaders, even by the lawyers, even by people who you do not think have done something like that, where it has to be condemned in the harshest of the words, but by very reason you are saying that I wouldn't let my daughter, I would burn her if she does something like that, and if that is belonging to a mindset which
honestly, is he not making a
representative.
fool of himself? I mean, which citizen?
No, fool of, I think he's taking advantage of the prevailing mindset. Why is he making a fool of himself? If he didn't say that.
So do you believe that there are people actually going to are going to support him or listen to him and agree with him?
They are supporting him. That's what the whole point of the documentary. Like if you look at quite a few number of people, including leaders, I can't recall them at this moment.
Mulayam Singh Yadav did mention about rape, that
correct.
It's an act of,
like he said, okay, sometimes it happens and gladke nahi kiya, something like that he said. I can't remember exactly. And there were a lot of women who said that I mean girls should take responsibility, they shouldn't provoke by wearing clothes which are making them sexually attractive and all that.
And Asaram Bapu went on to say that she should actually call him bhaiya during the rape.
Yeah. Now see the 3 points here, either they are very dumb or they think people are dumb. I have my doubts about it, people who say things like this, 2 points. One, I hear like something as dumb as this: a guy who is wanting to rape a girl, if she calls him bhaiya, that he is going to stop. I mean, no one can be more dumber than that, keeping him aside. Then I hear the things like you should empower them, they should learn martial arts and they should hold a pepper spray or some kind of stun gun. That is also ridiculous, because just having a weapon does not mean that you can have the courage to use it. If I am a man, technically I should be more powerful than a woman by my gender. But if 4 guys come to accost me to rob something out of me, bullshit, I will be able to fight them, I might be scared, someone else might fight back, someone else might do something. So that is not the point at all. I think it is not about empowering women to teach them self defense, it is the whole thrust of the exercise is to educate the mindset of the people who are causing it. Like I am saying the deeper thing, maybe it is not that easy, maybe it is not, it will take time, but you have to, even to start with, I think you need to accept that this is where the fault lies. And by banning the documentary and trying to put it under the carpet, that is exactly the reverse effect it is going to have. I mean, I think the most important thing in the case of Nirbhaya or any related case, I think is for the whole country to see what exactly that guy is about, why he has done it, to have a conversation with him. It is not to interrogate him, it is not to punish, that is the course of the law.
But there is no single thread that connects the various mindsets of those 6 rapists here.
If he
you
does,
have one guy who pulled out her intestines, how brutal can one get?
See, there are 2-3 points here. I think we are just getting kind of mixing up things. Now the intention to rape is different, and what happened in the situation. Like it could be possible, I mean, one victim will really fight hard, that is the kind of a person she is. One person will be utterly scared and she does not want to fight. That does not mean that rape is lesser, that crime is lesser. The point that is up to the personality and the prevailing situation circumstance. And these guys who are drunk, who are like animals or whatever, and in the kind of a struggle, one guy will whatever he thinks. I mean, a lot of times you see people in the road rage or wherever, they suddenly lose it and snap it and they indulge in violence. It happens all the time. People not able to control their temper, and then this kind of a violence will erupt, whatever happened. So I won't be knowing the specific details of what reason it was it done in cold blood, was it done in the case of a struggle or whatever, but I think that is a separate topic. I do not think it is related very strictly to extent of brutality they committed on her. The point is, them taking it for granted a woman on the road is prey and they can do anything to her is the mindset which actually is more important point.
Yeah, then so the reason we are discussing that,
even if they did not kill her, even if they did not grievously injure her, the fact that they take it for granted is actually the bigger problem.
No, the point we are trying to nail down is, if it is just a sexually motivated crime, then it should stop at satisfying their sexual urge.
Yeah.
Why would they go to the extent of injuring her? Is it just because she resisted?
That is exactly what I am saying. So I do not know about the situations which led to that. See, I am just trying to speculate, I do not know the things. I am saying in an anger, when you are trying to struggle and you are trying to fight, it is simple thing like a when I remember in college or somewhere, when we had a fight and suddenly this guy's finger poked into my eyes. The sudden stab of pain which created a rage in me, an uncontrollable rage in me, and I kind of just went mad for about some 10-20 seconds, you know. So, that is an identifiable thing, that depends upon what exactly happened in the struggle.
So, you feel it is situational
it
and
is
contextual.
situational, it is situational, contextual, and that will vary from place to place. And also then they were drunk, and then they are animals. I mean, the very fact that they get onto the bus and they are looking for a prey, it is like I said, like a lion is hungry and it wants to go into the jungle and to look for a helpless deer. Yes, that is order of nature, but still it is killing. So, these guys want, like the lion wants to have a satisfy urge of hunger, they want to satisfy sexual urge. So, they are looking like the women at a like a prey, at a women like a prey. I do not think there is a difference. After that, what led to this violence is a separate aspect.
So, it's almost like the example you are quoting of a lion and a deer feels like a lion being let loose in a deer park, because when you talk of a wild animal,
what is the fundamental difference, which is what a man would have done in prehistorical times. I am talking about days of tribals or whatever these time periods. But as society develops, civilizations and various laws and social things, humanness will develop and a certain discipline comes in, then you will just learn to control the urge, which happens by fear of law, fear of religion, and also the fact that you understand the benefits and you become more human. That is the reason which you are different from an animal, you know. But these guys coming from the backgrounds and their mindsets, I do not believe that, for example, if they were in a part of this debate, I am just saying, like suppose this happened to someone else and these guys were there in this particular room listening to you and me, I am super sure they will go off to sleep, because they are not, they will not be able to even understand this kind of a thing. So, that is the IQ level of those people.
What do they understand then?
The urges, it is an animal urge.
Animal instincts driving
them. It is an animal instinct. Animal to hone the animal instinct and to discipline it and to make you understand is what makes a human being, and that is the reason I am using the term animals on them, not to demean animals, but just to give a parallel on a comparison.
What is extremely scary is the fact that these people are regular people walking around in mainstream society. The guy drove a bus, one of the guys was a cleaner. So, all these people could be around everybody, all of us today.
Yeah, but that is the whole point. See, like what is society doing? It creates a thing that everyone is normal. You see, you are going and there is a red light, you stop. There is a green light, you go. A lot of people have the urge to cut the red light. Why would they not do it? They neither have the guts. Maybe they might not have the courage, or they might just become like sheep, or they might understand the point of why we should follow certain discipline in traffic, or there could be somebody who really has an urgency, who wants to break it. There will be so many mindsets among all the traffic, the cars or bikes or whatever are waiting to cross the thing, but from a long shot they all look the same and normal, you know. So, I think it is just a very mild example I am giving of that. So, a person can have a criminal tendency, he might not have the
guts
to execute it, you know. So, I think what is the difference between the group where I was sitting, we are talking about that construction laborer and these guys, it is just the degree. The fact that there was a 10-second pause is the scariest part for me, which means
for 10 seconds you considered,
and that is because we are talking all the time about, we are in the mind state of that, you know. It is like a drug, it is like a high you are on, and all it takes is just a tipping point, like somebody pushes you either on this side of the wall or that side of the wall, you know.
And one of the following can be triggers to the tipping point. It could be alcohol.
Yeah, it
could be a gang leader
or gang
motivating
leader,
you.
or it is your personal mindset about what you think of, in this case, women, you know. It is extremely evident. I think so many people I know who talk so demeaningly about women, you know. I mean, I think whether it comes from tradition, it comes from our history. I mean, like for example, like right from Ramayana time, to say that a Pativrata is supposed to be just only serving the husband, she has no business to come out. Even if the husband is a bastard, is a good for nothing bum, she only should serve, okay. Which means psychologically it makes me feel as if the wife is a slave, you know. Now, that came from a feudalistic I mean time, because the books were written in those period and all that. But today you are talking about women are equal to men, if not more. I mean, many times they are actually surprising, doing things more than men. I mean, the fact that someone as dangerous as Osama bin Laden can be caught by women in intelligence itself is a wake up call for everyone. So, in that kind of a time period still there are people like this, like ML Sharmas and whatever the other guy's name is I forgot, and the rapists, if they
Mukesh,
think of
yeah.
women as like this now in 2015, that is alarming.
It is alarming.
Yes.
So, going forward, I mean, Mukesh has been interrogated somewhat during this BBC interview, but not completely. Going forward, what do you think the modus operandi should be after these people are caught? I mean, in arriving at some kind of a logical or some kind of a consensus about what is happening in the country, what do you think should happen?
See, the main point I feel the thrust of it, or at least I am not saying there is an alternative to what you have to do to them. See, what you are going to do to them in punishment, I do not believe is going to make any difference. It cannot be a deterrent. Punishment I do not believe is a deterrent. Yes, but the fact is done, it has to be put away from society and given whatever is due to him is correct, but that is not going to make a difference.
But punishment
like
is working in many countries. I mean, you see the Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
instant punishments, they drive a fear of law.
See, to start with, okay, let me finish the court thing. So, the point is in a democratic country where there is a freedom of expression, one, every person is entitled to live the way he wants to live his life without the general will of others comes and stops him, unless what he does is actually affecting the people. Okay. In countries which have extreme laws, like for example the Sharia law or whatever, I mean, or anything similar, where you are giving extremely harsh punishments. So, the quantum of punishment should somewhere have a kind of a measuring factor with the quantum of crime. That is what a humane way of looking at society, So, a person, why does he commit a crime? Where is it coming from? Is it his background? Is it this? And to look at it like a disease, that is what I was trying to say. So, is there a chance of him redeeming? Is there a chance of him reforming or whatever, is what a society's humane way of looking. That is why developed countries have a different format. Now, in these countries, the moment you are having an autocratic aspect of, if this happens, do this, to cut off his hands or cut off this, cut off that. Nobody wants to live in a barbarism like that. The whole point is there is a different way a criminal thinks and a reformed society will think, or a advanced society will think. So, that is where the clue is, what I am talking about, to treat it like a disease. You can't be angry with the disease.
But forgive me, but isn't
so
that like
the point, like already we said, we gave the death sentence, the whole country, and the whole country, lakhs of people said cut them into pieces and all that, but if that has not stopped any rape at all, which means the message is not coming across. So, how would you say that? Whereas there it is not happening, that has been happening for such a long time traditionally in those countries, in those kind of punishments, and at the same time they are restricting, people can't come out, women can't have this freedom, this, because that kind of, nobody wants to have that kind of style, at least in India.
True, but
Yeah.
Is it not evident that this is not working, because it is like applying iOS onto a Windows phone. We are trying to apply a developed country system.
See, first of all, to start with, I do not think crime stopped in any country, it is not only in India, that is not the point, Second point is, the number seems bigger, obviously because the number of people are more, second. But there are two separate issues. One is it happening, second is whether extreme punishments will actually make a point. Extreme punishments again are coming from where it will have lot of associated things with it to do that kind of a thing.
Like what?
Like for example, you take the Taliban, they do not want people to see TV, they want people to listen to music, they want people to come onto the roads, they do not want women to be seen at all. Okay. It is, and that kind of an extreme suppression of freedom is not what any kind of a democratic country would want. So, you can't just isolate one and only this we will do it, the rest of it we will not do it. And for all the talk about protection of women, women need more protection, what is the government supposed to do? Are they going to put one constable for every woman? And if they do that, there is an instance in Bombay where in mid afternoon a constable had raped a woman, because a constable also a man at the end of the day, just because he is wearing a uniform does not necessarily change the person or the mindset or the kind of a person he is. And which woman would want someone to be tagging all the time with her? So, I am saying the crime and the punishment are separate aspect, and to study the origin of where this criminal impulse is coming from is a separate aspect. That is where the cure will be. The cure cannot be in just punishing the incident or considering the incident and punishing the perpetrator. I think it is a larger picture.
If the origin of all this is merely sexual,
yeah,
then are you saying the solution would be to let out their sexual repression whatever way?
No, not necessarily that will stop.
Then what is the solution?
See, that is what I am saying. The solution, see, there is no such thing as a solution, but I think a larger effect is going to be, see, today let us say if I as an ordinary citizen of India am watching a television interview conducted by maybe a psychiatrist or somebody very intelligent with these guys like Mukesh or whatever their names are, Akshay Thakur, to see what is it that they are and what kind of Bhagwan inko kaisa banaya, how the hell are these guys made. I can't do it, you won't do it, nobody can. Even the lakhs of people who get shocked with that incident, just now you asked me this question, how can a man do something as horrific as that? Even I would like to know that, and I would like to know the answer from that guy, where is it coming from, I want to know the details from the guy who perpetuated, which can give me an answer probably this where it is coming from. See, when I saw the documentary, the fact that this guy a rapist will think like that, I never knew. He looks like a human being, he has got a wife.
And
his
he's actually
wife loves
concerned
him.
about his wife.
His wife loves him, his wife is concerned for him even after what he has done. That is the actual thing one has to concentrate on, where it is coming from. Here just in the documentary you also got to know this is how he thinks, this is how his people think.
How would you label this? Is it extreme backwardness or extreme feudalism?
I think your emotion is making you blind. You are not looking at it logically and rationally. If there is a snake. A snake, of course, you know it bites and you want to escape it, you want to kill it or you want to jump over it, you want to go around it, but you have to look at it and study it. What is causing that snake to bite you?
So every man is a snake,
so that's
according
fact.
to you.
Not every. See, that's what I am saying. Anything which poses a threat to us, threat to you physically, threat to society, or threat to anybody you want to protect, that needs to be looked and studied rather than emotionally reacting to it.
But RGV, I understand what you are saying. You are saying that the problem here is in identifying whether it is a rope or a snake.
Yeah.
Because we do not know where potentially rapists are walking
around. I am
around.
not saying that. I am saying, see, the moment you are identifying, this is where the mindset is coming from. See, today if you listen to that guy talking, obviously is taking it like I see the reflection of that thought, what he is saying, even in a political leader sometime, even in the lawyer, even in someone else, lot of people seem to be talking in the same language. This guy might have done it, others have not done it, that is about the difference. Like for example, what is the justification he is giving himself? He is saying women should not, a nice girl will not come out in the night, a nice girl will not be moving around with a boy who she is not married to. That in his mind somewhere is giving a justification that he has not done as big a crime as what people are thinking. That is the effect he has given me in the way he speaks. Okay. So, what a girl should do or should not do is also reflective of many people who probably have not done that crime. Many political leaders I heard talk in this kind of a same language. They might not have raped, they might not do it, but I am saying it is reflecting a mindset of a justification. So, my point, a woman has every right to be the way she wants to, whether she wants to wear skimpy clothes or she wants to smoke or she wants to walk out in the whole night. It is a business as a free country, as a free individual, as long as she is living under the laws of the country. It is nobody's business to tell her how to dress
all
and
that
how
is
to
in
behave.
fact very far-fetched. We are talking about a girl who was a student, who was a very good student, walking with her fiance or boyfriend, about which her parents seem to have known.
Yeah. That is not the issue. That is not the issue. If she was wearing shorts and smoking and standing on the road, that also for me is the same crime. There is no difference between that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, it looks very grim from what we are speaking now. If that is reality, then so we can't do anything about it.
I mean,
looks really
eventually
grim.
the world is a dangerous place and things happen all over the place. Rape is just one aspect what we are talking about. Okay, I just want to finish one line in the just previous topic. What I want to say, when they say that she is asking for it because she is roaming in the night or she is wearing clothes which make her look attractive, and so she asked for it is what one set of people, I remember including some senior police officers saying things like that in the past.
One of the former Director Generals of
correct,
Police.
correct. You know, that for me is almost like saying, of course, a woman's sexuality is attractive to a man. Okay, likewise, a wealth of a man is attractive. So, if Ambani has lot of money, he's got the best house, and he's got the best car, does that give me the right to go and hit him and take it just because he's showing it off? It's like saying that to me, you know. So, you are living under laws of country, you are living in a country where there is freedom. This is what is accepted by I mean a certain constitution, whatever, you have to abide by it. That is what you being a social person. Okay. Here you are giving a justification based on taking away someone's freedom on the basis of what you think of it on a cultural traditional background, which has nothing to do with the laws of the country, because you are belonging to a regressive mindset which you inherited from your parents or grandparents over a period of time, and you never even thought about it, thought back on it. That is what the actual problem is.
Now, I am just surprised, in these last 3 years Mukesh was in custody. Do you think anybody would have bothered to even counsel him and tell him that what he has done is wrong? Because evidently that didn't reflect in any of his.
I personally do not think that is the point. To counsel him and to tell him what is wrong, I think is not the point. The main point for me, he thinks like this, and what is wrong in that thinking should be a general education done to the whole country. That point is not about Mukesh. Mukesh has to suffer what he had suffered, for what he had done. But the important point is for to understand the origin of where it is coming from, that kind of a thinking, to do a deep study of it and to educate the entire country on that should be the main concern.
But isn't it a point of discussion that he is facing death penalty, he is at the mercy of the higher court, and in spite of all this he still is justifying his act, saying that had she not resisted we would have probably spared her.
No, it is not about justified, but that is a very important point. I mean the point is whatever he is saying needs to be taken importantly, because he is a man who committed such a horrendous barbaric act. He is a part of a gang which did something which is so shocking. So, whatever he says has to be taken seriously, studied, understood, and if not discarded, or to make a certain amendment, maybe in the law, maybe in our thinking, maybe in some other way of implementing or educating, whatever it is. So, my point is, if you take it in the context of what is said, if she did not resist at all, okay. For example, let us say in the Shakti Mill case, from my understanding, she did not resist, but does it make the crime lesser? Eventually these also are being awarded the death sentence. That is because rape calls for that kind of a penalty and under the law, right. But my point is, it is eventually about you are enforcing yourself on someone else's freedom, and then the degree of it. I could be pushing someone, I could be hitting someone, I could be raping someone, I could be killing someone. All of them are in the varying degrees of whatever it causes for that kind of a punishment. But with regard to rape, I think what is special about, there is a woman's honor, there is a kind of a mental trauma she would, I mean there will be a stain on her mind and the people, and the kind of relationship she might have with another man. So many associated causes with rape, and I mean compared to probably anything else, other crimes which are described, they could be relatively momentary and temporary, unlike rape.
Right.
So, it needs to be taken extremely seriously, you know. So, to at least figure out and deeply study the I mean from what kind of a mindset it will origin, that study I think is far more important than just to have a reaction on a specific incident. That is the only point I am trying to make.
Yeah, a study is important.
I mean, my question, what if just all these 4 accused, see they are going to be punished, they are going to be hanged, but before they are hanged, I think it makes a great deal for me as a citizen to see them talk about in detail why they have done what they have done. I really would like to hear that, you know, and because that is what, once that you all of us know, we will also try to figure out who speaks like that. There is some person I know, because for that particular guy who suggested to pick up that construction laborer, I think he is a potential Mukesh, just a question of opportunity and to what degree it will go, to what degree it is going to go. But if I see this, if this is open, this will create more fear, because the fact that he is thinking like me, he is talking like me, I might be having those thoughts in my inside which I might have spoken, I might not have spoken, but the fact that this kind of a thinking is what which can lead to this, I think will have a far more bigger effect. It is like a self realization in a sense of the word, that is voicing my thoughts, is voicing my inner dark desires, is what I think needs to be needed.
Obviously, 67 years after getting, I mean, I am talking in the context of India getting its freedom.
Yeah.
We have not made much progress. In fact, like I mentioned earlier, 20 minutes, every 20 minutes there is a rape happening. Some women, angry women, have suggested that apart from all this investigative interview that happens, they should be castrated,
Yeah.
their limbs should be cut off, some horrendous punishment should be imposed on them, so that potential rapists can at least fear the law and stop these kind of things.
But I think we went over this topic already, because I do not believe a harsh punishment is going to make a difference, because
We haven't even tried it.
no, but it won't happen. The reason for that is this, because no rapist ever will believe that is going to be caught, either he can't control his urge. Why would a guy rape? Even if he knows he is going to be arrested, he won't do it, because no one wants to carry a stigma like that, that I have been in jail, I am going to be in jail for 1 month or 10 months or 14 years, or they will cut off my hands or whatever. That is not the point. They will believe they won't get caught, they will believe that the girl might not report, or they just simply can't control the urge. Beyond these three elements, and which is evident, like I already said in this interview, which is very evident that the rape graph did not fall down in spite of all the amendments they did to the law post Nirbhaya. See, but my point, that is a separate topic. What kind of a punishment has to be given under the laws of a developed free country, a democracy like India, I think that is a completely different debate.
Okay. No,
here the point,
you don't want to talk about that today.
The point, it is not about me not wanting to talk about that. I think that has a far more bigger ramification, because we are looking at reform. Prison system and justice system is about reforming. We are making the whole society healthy as a whole, and to look at those people like a disease. Like, why is the death sentence being commuted, like being abolished in many countries? It's because of that. Because the more the society progresses, to inflict punishment upon a person is much lesser compared to reforming the society and to take them out. Do not give them so much importance as individuals. If they did, remove them from society, okay, just they are not a part of the society. Then by keeping them alive, one is your understanding, your studying, and third is your anyway protecting, because he is out of the society.
So personally, you are against death penalty?
Personally, I am against any kind of a punishment as a deterrent, because that does not work. It is not about personally I am against death penalty. Death penalty comes under revenge. You are punishing someone for he did something. But my point is, you should attack the cause of what is making that person happen. That person is eventually a bundle of thoughts. Where are the thoughts coming from? His thoughts are what is making him take an action. So, you are killing him as a person, but those thoughts could be still alive, not necessarily him because he is dead, but that kind of thoughts, where are they coming from, is actual larger picture. That is what I think a developed society should do. So, coming back to this, what would be the mistake for the whole country to know right from the horse's mouth exactly what were they thinking? What were they thinking when they were doing this?
Okay, the fundamental question of, do you think that if Mukesh speaks something today, it has to be taken at face value? Do you think he understands himself as much to actually remember what happened?
So, it is not about the incident. I would like to know what his views on a woman are. What did he first think of a woman? Where does he come from? What is the conversation exactly they had before starting on the bus? You know, what are the kind of people? Did they do something like this before, or did they have fantasies of doing
Evidently,
this before?
he has a fragmented disorder, because on one hand he is talking about caring, worrying about his wife.
That is coming in parts in a documentary. So, that is not to be taken at just at the value of how it is put inside the documentary. This I am talking about a detailed understanding of him as a person, and like any kind of, where you are hearing this guy, that guy, what are they conversing, and eventually they will be not, and the question is not about them lying, or even if there is a lie, even if it is something they are trying to say, you understanding their mindset, I think, is the most important thing. That only can have Now, like I said, I mean, what can we have more than I can give? If anybody potential guy who thinks like that and if he reflects and he knows what happened to this man, I had this kind of a conversation with my friend, that guy might recollect, or I had this idea. In fact, like I said, I remember this conversation which happened in my college, no, because that had a certain thing. Here they might have gone ahead and that kind of a thing prevailed for hours for them to commit that, and fortunately in my group it just came for 10 seconds and went off. Okay, yeah. So that is what I think is needed. So I remember that because of this incident.
So we need some kind of a basis.
Yeah, it has to hit your conscious. It has to hit your what you deeply know. And every person, whenever they heard a guy like Mukesh talking, they would know people who spoke like that. They would know people who think like that. So it becomes a wake up call for all the citizens of the country of a mindset to alert them to a potential guy like that.
So now comes the fundamental.
You are just making it open, making it transparent of the basic mind of a rapist.
Now comes the fundamental and final question, RGV. How do you think India's daughter should be taken care of? If she is given her freedom, does that mean, if she is empowered, that she is equal to man in the sense that she doesn't need to be protected, or she needs to be protected?
See the point of every, I don't think it's about India's daughter. Every person should be protected. The larger picture here is like women's empowerment, which I already said. I think it's a big fallacy to expect a girl to fight, expect a man to fight also. I mean, eventually we are not designed to commit physical action on somebody who is threatening us. We are just designed to do our jobs and live our lives, and there is security agencies which are supposed to take care of when something out of the order happens, like a physical threat or a violence or whatever you call.
And there can also be women police officers for that matter.
That is not the point. I don't think women police officer meant that. That is not the point. Eventually, if it has to happen, like it is the particular person who does it, because any kind of a crime is done by one person or a very small group of people, not as a large thing, unless it is backed by an ideology or whatever it is, Now here what I am saying, a girl has every right, I mean as much as a man, if not more, like I already said in a thing, whether she wants to wear mini skirts or she wants to smoke or she wants to just go for a stroll in the night, it is a duty of the establishment and the society and the whole thing, or even the so called people of the country, to protect her, to see that an individual's rights are not being grabbed just by the whim or a fancy or a urge of some person. That is a fundamental right of a human being to be free in a democratic country. Now the question is, but yes, if you do that, if you are saying you are asking for it, the quintessential question, you are asking for it, because you did it, it's that. Then I gave the example. Now if somebody has the money, that doesn't give me the right to, just because he is showing off his car and his purse, I am going to beat him and take him. It eventually amounts to that for me. So I think yes, in any society it is impossible to stop crime completely. Not that it does not happen in the US, an advanced country like US either, but any society's basic thing is to evolve and develop, and for that it has to keep on identifying the mistakes, identify the faults which are inherently existing. They thought have gone, or maybe they are still existing. The BBC documentary is a wake up call that they still exist. On one hand, I am so proud about India that is going so ahead in so many ways. There is Mr. Narendra Modi, suddenly there is a kind of a talk about India across the world, and the IT, the advancement, everything. And then when I saw the documentary, I suddenly got a shock that even now these people are existing. It is not that I did not know, it was a wake up call. It was a reminder to me that actually this is where we are coming from. We have come from at some time in our life.
Very regressive kind of a.
So that aspect is, it should be identified like a disease. It is still there, the body, it seems to be perfect, but there is some disease right now. So to accept it, to identify it, and then to seriously put heads together to think of a cure for it is what I think is the true need of the day.
It's thought provoking speaking to you on this today. As a last question, this is perceived as a power struggle between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
Although the trigger in this particular case of rape is sexual in nature,
Yeah.
it's ultimately boils down to the fact that it's a power enforcement of the superior species over the weaker one, quote
See,
unquote.
fair enough. I personally think, I think this is just like complicating the issue, saying that rape is not about sex, about power. I think rape is about sex, period. That is what I believe, because it is an urge at the end of the day. So, money and power, so power and sex are two primary aspects of life. Okay? Sex is a desire, a feeling, and power is you can do what you want to do with it, and money in civilized terms actually is a converter to physical power. Okay. So, the fact that you want to have a power to do something which makes you want to rob money of somebody else, and the fact that you want sexual pleasure, if you can't get it and if the woman does not willingly give it, you will take it. You are using your power to take sexual pleasure, but it is not about power, it is about sex, it is a desire. But the whole point, what instinctively every animal has, human beings develop to an extent where they can control the desire, discipline it, and for the general good and growth of society. And if anybody who does not fall in that, he needs to be put out of society. That is the basic point of.
Are you going to write to one of the central ministers, requesting them to, lift this ban off, or giving your suggestions, since you're so actively involved? And
I mean, for the kind of people who ban this documentary, I doubt they will have the sensibility to listen to anything.
So you're going to rest your case. I mean, just
yeah,
be a filmmaker and
as a part. I mean, as a person in a free country, I just express my views, what I think about this, and after that, it's up to whoever it reaches, whoever they take notice of it, and whatever they think of it. I just did my bit in just expressing my views on a public platform.
So for today, we'll pause this conversation, RGV, and we'll continue. We'll resume, because I'm sure there'll be many more triggers. It's unfortunate but true.
Yeah.
To speak about various undercurrent trends that are happening in society, in the Indian society. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks.